Let's discuss some flapper matters now. I'm very knowledgeable about feathered kind because I'm quite the avid birdwatcher. I can sit there for hours just studying them, those plump chests, the double drumsticks, the bobbing, crunchy craniums. It's a very pleasurable pastime and one of my main daytime hobbies. I see some other keen birders around too, but they often have no idea what they're doing. I remember this time I was behind the swaying pond whiskers down at my park, spying out a drifting duck pair, doing my anatomical studies. Conclusion, the right one was at least 2 meals and a lick-snack meteor.
Then suddenly I heard a click and turned around to see this brown-skirted woman in a white cardigan hide, with a black tube hung round her neck, doing her own bird studies, but out in the open, not even 1 foot in a shadow.
And that's one thing with proper camouflage, but not when you're standing out like a bone in a chop. You've got to keep concealed or at least hugging ground. Otherwise, flappers just see you coming a mile off when you go to pounce.
And if all you're doing as a birder is the watching part, well, you have to ask what the whole point of it is. I thought the tube she had was to stuff a flapper in because it looked nice and rigid, but then I saw she just put it over her eye, then pointed and clicked it at them. I don't know what it was supposed to do, because it didn't make them drop dead or anything useful. Maybe it was broken, or just some crazy gadgetry even hindwalkers don't know how to use yet. And then there was the man climbing a ladder into the tree canopy, putting a murky crow chick with an anklet back in the nest.
He had obviously done some top-notch birding and nabbed himself a baby crow. Not easy to do. And the fumbling fool went and put it right back. Okay, maybe he wanted one without the anklet, but you can just gnaw those things off even with blunt hindwalker fangs. That's how clueless some of these birders are, let me tell you. I know there are some decent ones living in housing near here, because I find bird skeletons in their bins, but the ones I've seen in the field are just unbelievable amateurs.
Now, just because I'm a keen birder, it doesn't mean birds don't drive me mad. Believe me, flappers infuriate me on a daily basis. What I hate most is how evasive they are. Rodents are exhausting enough, but birds act like even the blowing leaves are plotting to kill them. They're easily the edgiest things in the world. Just watch the way they move. They can't make one relaxed motion out the air. Just jerk here, jolt there. You're half expecting their heads to snap off when they're hammer-pecking for crumbs.
I used to lurk around waiting for that, actually, hoping for a homemade cat ball, even if it lacked the tinkle bell. My mother was pretty poor and I never had a real one growing up.
But I was young and naive about flapper anatomy. The heads are quite well attached, as it turns out. If you want the heads to come off, you really have to force the issue. It wouldn't surprise me if birds aren't just paranoid lunatics for the most part. I remember in this courtyard near me, there was an old woman in a big gray coat hide with a bonnet stuck with quill feathers. I don't know what that was all about. If you want to fly, they go on the arms lady. And you'd think she'd have solved that puzzle because she used to toss crumbs to pigeons all the time, and their anatomy is pretty self-explanatory, even without dissection.
The point is, even though those pigeons were practically her flock by then, she knew all their names and even wore the same feathers. If she even so much as sneezed, the birds burst into the air like their lives were at stake. I mean, I'm not going to jump in the lap of Carl the butcher just because we're on first-name basis and he tosses me a blood-soaked bone. I'm not a reckless fool. But you won't find me sprinting for the sewers if he gets in petting distance either. He could have some Fritz in the fist, after all.